From creatures that regrow lost limbs to animals that can rebuild their entire body from a single cell, nature's power to regenerate is nothing short of mind-bending. Some of these species can replace their hearts, brains, or even whole organs that humans could never recover from losing. These are 20 animals that can regrow entire body parts. Starting with number 20, the axolotl. The axolotl is a type of aquatic salamander that's native to Mexico. It is a really cool example of regeneration in the animal kingdom. It can regrow not just its limbs, but its spinal cord, heart tissue, its jaw, and even parts of its brain, often without leaving any visible scars. When it loses a limb, the wound quickly seals and it forms a structure called a blastema, a mass of undifferentiated cells that can pretty much develop into any tissue type required to rebuild the missing part. Within weeks, a fully functioning limb reappears, complete with muscles, nerves, and bones. And it's not limited to their external body parts either. Axolotls can regenerate parts of their central nervous system, including portions of their spinal cord. If their spinal cord is severed, new nerve cells can connect to grow and bridge the gap, restoring their mobility. In mammals, that injury is typically permanent, and the immune system they have also seems to play a role, as it allows the regeneration to happen with minimal inflammation, which creates a great environment for cell growth. They never really undergo complete metamorphosis like most salamanders. They retain larval features like gills, and they remain aquatic throughout their lives. This neotenic trait, keeping juvenile characteristics into adulthood, may be linked to their remarkable regenerative powers. Their natural habitat, once limited to the Xochimilco Lake complex near Mexico City, has nearly disappeared due to urban expansion, and as a result, wild axolotls are critically endangered. Most of what we know about their biology comes from captive populations used in research labs. Scientists are still trying to fully understand the genetic pathways that make this regeneration possible. Studies have identified certain genes that seem crucial in promoting this regrowth while preventing scarring, and research hopes that by decoding these mechanisms, it might one day be possible to apply similar process to humans, although that remains a distant goal. Despite these almost mythical abilities, axolotls are real, living creatures. They're not science fiction. Their power to regrow complex organs makes them one of biology's most fascinating species. Number 19. The sea star. Sea stars, commonly known as starfish. They're another group of animals with astonishing regenerative powers. They're found throughout the world's oceans. These echinoderms can regrow entire arms and, in some species, an entirely new body from a single detached limb. This is not an exaggeration. If a portion of the central disc remains attached to the severed arm, that fragment can regenerate into a completely new starfish over several months. This regeneration is guided by stem-like cells that can transform into muscle, nerve, and skeletal cells, and they are highly adaptable. They're capable of rebuilding the complex network of radial nerves and water vascular canals that allow the sea stars to move and feed. And unlike mammals, sea stars don't form any scar tissue. The new arm eventually grows back to its full size and restores the starfish's symmetry. Depending on the environmental conditions, this can take anywhere from several months to over a year, and their ability to regenerate isn't really just a survival trick, it's a reproductive strategy too. Some species found in tropical waters reproduce asexually by dividing themselves. A single arm still attached to a part of the central disc can crawl away and grow into a clone of the original. Many of the same molecular signals that control wound healing and tissue development are active in both, and this makes the sea star a useful model for understanding how regeneration might work in higher animals. In ecosystems where predation is common and physical damage is frequent, this resilience has helped sea stars thrive for over 400 million years. The power to rebuild themselves from fragments is one of nature's clearest demonstrations that life, if given the right tools, can persist even after being torn apart. Number 18. The planarian flatworm. Planarian flatworms are famous in biology for being practically immortal under laboratory conditions, thanks to their extraordinary regenerative abilities. These small, unassuming worms, often found in ponds, streams, and other freshwater environments, can regrow their entire bodies from even the tiniest of fragments. In some cases, cutting a planarian into more than 20 pieces results in 20 complete, fully functional worms. The secret of this lies in a special type of stem cell called a neoblast, which makes up about 20% of the planarian's body. These are pluripotent, meaning they can transform into virtually any type of cell: muscle, nerves, skin, or even digestive tissue. When a planarian is injured or cut, neoblasts swarm to the wound and form a blastema, a mass of undifferentiated cells that rebuilds the structures. Within days, new organs begin to form, and soon, a complete worm emerges, indistinguishable from the original. Even more astonishing, they can regenerate their entire central nervous system, including their brain and eye spots, which detect light. This has made them a model organism in research on regeneration and stem cell biology. In controlled experiments, decapitated planarians that had been trained to respond to certain stimuli appeared to remember those responses once their heads and brains regrew, suggesting that memory may be stored at the molecular level within their tissues. Planarians also have the ability to reproduce sexually and asexually. In the asexual species, individuals can just split themselves in half, with each section regenerating into a new organism. And unlike humans and most other animals, planarians show no clear sign of aging. Because their cells can continually renew themselves, they theoretically could live indefinitely unless killed by external causes. However, flatworms are still vulnerable to environmental toxins, desiccation, and starvation. Understanding how planarians control this cell differentiation and avoid tumor growth while regrowing organs could one day provide insights into regenerative medicine and cancer research. For now, though, the humble planarian remains a marvel, a tiny little creature that can rebuild itself from almost nothing. It defies nearly every biological limitation we know. Number 17. The green sea slug. The green sea slug. This is one of the strangest creatures in the ocean. This small marine mollusk found along the Atlantic coast of North America has a really cool ability. It can decapitate itself and regrow its entire body, including its heart and other internal organs, within just a few weeks. Even more, it can survive for months with only just its head intact. In a discovery that surprised scientists in 2021, researchers observed individual slugs voluntarily shedding their entire bodies below the neck. The detached heads continued to move, feed, and live while regenerating a new torso. This process is known as autotomy, and it's believed to help the slug eliminate parasites that have infected its body. Once the parasite-ridden tissues are discarded, the head simply grows a new, healthy body. The secret behind this regeneration is tied to another of the slug's peculiar traits: its partial ability to perform photosynthesis. These slugs feed on algae, and they retain the algae's chloroplasts, which it stores in its own tissues. These chloroplasts continue to photosynthesize, providing the slug with energy in the form of sugars. This adaptation allows the head to survive and regenerate even without a digestive system for several weeks. During the regeneration, the slug's body parts, including the head and other organs, begin to reform from the tissues just behind the neck, and in about 20 days, a complete functioning body is restored. Scientists are still unsure how the slug maintains the stolen chloroplasts for such a long period, or how the photosynthetic energy is used to fuel regeneration. However, it is clear that this combination of animal and plant-like biology is key to its survival. By harnessing the power of the sun and regrowing its own body, this thing blurs the line between animal and plant, offering scientists an unparalleled glimpse into the extremes of regeneration and adaptation. Number 16. The spiny starfish. So the spiny starfish is one of the ocean's most durable animals. It's able to regrow entire limbs and sometimes even its whole body from a single fragment. Found along the rocky coastlines and coral reefs, spiny starfish rely on this ability to recover from predator attacks, storms, or even accidents. If an arm is torn off, the starfish can simply begin growing it back over the course of several months. The process begins almost immediately after an injury. Cells near the wound start dividing rapidly, and they form a new tissue where the missing arm used to be. Instead of scarring, the starfish produces a soft regenerative zone that slowly hardens as the new limb develops bones, muscles, and nerves. The radial nerves, part of the starfish's simple nervous system, also regrow and may restore full movement and sensitivity once the arm is complete. This new arm can move, grasp food, and even sense changes in the environment, just like the original. It is an energy-intensive process, though, and it requires nutrients from stored reserves, and the starfish's diet of clams, mussels, and small invertebrates provide that. Scientists are studying the spiny starfish to understand how they manage to regrow these complex structures. Many of these molecular pathways involved are similar to those seen in mammals during the early embryonic development. The difference is in that starfish, these pathways can be reactivated at any age. This makes them a great organism for research into human wound healing and tissue repair. Through this slow but reliable process, the spiny starfish shows nature's capacity for renewal. It's a living organism that can rebuild itself again and again, surviving in the ever-changing world beneath the waves. Number 15. The zebrafish. Zebrafish. They're a small, striped freshwater fish commonly used in research, and it's one of the most advanced regenerative abilities among vertebrates. Unlike most fish, or any mammal really, it can grow its heart, fin, skin, spinal cords, and even parts of its brain and eyes. These abilities have made it one of the most studied animals in the regeneration science, with findings that may one day help humans. The most surprising discovery came when researchers found that zebrafish can regrow as much as 20% of their heart after injury. In humans, heart muscle cannot regenerate. Scar tissue forms instead, leading to permanent damage. But in zebrafish, heart cells called cardiomyocytes simply re-enter the cell cycle and divide again, replacing the lost tissue and restoring normal heart function within about 2 months. Their brains and spinal cord show similar resilience. After injury, neurons regrow and reconnect, and that restores mobility and sensory function. Even parts of a retina can regenerate, allowing the fish to recover vision after damage. These zebrafish are transparent when they're young and allow scientists to observe it in real time. Researchers can literally watch the cells move, divide, and organize as tissues regrow, and this has helped identify key genes involved in this regeneration, which guide the cell growth and tissue patterning. Now, while humans share many of the same genes, we've lost the ability to activate them in adult tissues. Understanding how the zebrafish does it could lead to breakthroughs in treating spinal injuries, heart disease, and even blindness. For a small, striped aquarium fish, the zebrafish is proven to be one of biology's most powerful teachers. Number 14. The salamander. The salamander is often called nature's master of regeneration, and for good reason. These amphibians can regrow lost limbs, tails, eyes, and parts of the brain, and even sections of their heart and spinal cord. When a salamander loses a limb, the wound closes within a few hours, and cells at the site then begin a transformation process. Mature cells revert back into a stem cell-like state. Now, these cells, called blastemal cells, multiply and organize themselves into a structure that recreates the missing limb exactly as it was before. Within a few weeks, small buds of tissue appear, followed by fully formed digits, and the result is a perfectly functional limb, no scars, no deformities. This ability isn't limited to one species, but shared across many types, including newts, tiger salamanders, and axolotls that we talked about. The process is controlled by the animal's immune system, which plays a role in creating the right environment for tissue growth, and scientists studying salamanders have identified several molecular signals, like fibroblast growth factors and transforming growth factor beta, that guide the cells during this regeneration. Understanding how salamanders reactivate these pathways has major implications for regenerative medicine. In nature, regeneration gives salamanders a powerful advantage. Predators that grab their tails or limbs often only get a piece, while the salamander escapes and eventually regrows the lost part. Some species even can directly detach their tails to distract a predator, a behavior known as autotomy. Though they look like ordinary amphibians, they are living examples of resilience. Their ability to rebuild complex organs continues to inspire scientists working to unlock the same potentials in humans and mammals. Number 13. The African spiny mouse. Among mammals, the African spiny mouse is almost unique. While most mammals can only heal wounds with scars, this small rodent can regrow skin, fur, hair follicles, sweat glands, and even parts of its ears after injury. When attacked, the mouse's skin tears easily. It's almost like tissue paper, allowing it to escape predators. While this might sound like a weakness, it's actually a clever defense. The mouse can lose up to 60% of the skin on its back and still survive. Within days, new tissue begins forming and the wounds heal without scarring. Even more remarkable, the new skin includes fully functional hair follicles, glands, and connective tissue, something no other mammal can naturally regenerate. The process resembles what happens in amphibians and reptiles, which does suggest a mouse may have retained some ancient regenerative traits that were lost in most mammals. But in addition to the skin regeneration, the spiny mice can regrow portions of their ear tissue, a trait that scientists often study under laboratory conditions. When a small circular section of the ear is removed, the tissue grows back completely, restoring the original shape and texture. This includes the cartilage and hair, which are both notoriously difficult to regenerate in other animals. And of course, the spiny mouse's abilities are drawing attention from regenerative medicine researchers who hope its biology could reveal ways to trigger scar-free healing in humans. By comparing its genome to that of non-regenerating mammals like standard lab mice, scientists have expressed several gene differences linked to tissue repair and inflammation control. These little guys represent a rare glimpse into what's possible when evolution keeps a door open that most other species have long since closed. Number 12. Deer. So deer are one of the few mammals capable of regenerating a complex body part, their antlers. Each year, male deer shed their old antlers and regrow new ones, structures made of bone, cartilage, skin, nerves, and blood vessels. This process is one of the fastest examples of organ regeneration known in any mammal. In species like red deer or elk, new antlers can grow up to an inch per day during peak season. This process begins with a specialized layer of cells on the skull called the pedicle periosteum. After the antlers fall off, these cells activate and start forming a new growth called the velvet, a soft tissue covered with fine hair and filled with blood vessels. This velvet supplies nutrients and oxygen to the rapidly developing bone underneath, and within a few months, the growing antlers harden and the velvet is eventually shed. The antlers are replaced entirely each year, combined with nerves and connective tissue, and scientists have found that these same types of stem cells involved in limb regeneration in amphibians are active in deer pedicles. These cells remain dormant for most of the year and then reactivate when hormone levels, especially testosterone, shift with the season. The regeneration of deer antlers is not just a curiosity, it does provide one of the best natural models for studying tissue growth in mammals. And by understanding how deer can repeatedly regrow complex bone structures without scarring, scientists hope to uncover clues that could one day improve human bone repair. So deer show us that even among warm-blooded mammals, creatures that generally lost regenerative ability millions of years ago, nature has preserved at least one remarkable exception. Year after year, these animals regrow massive, intricate structures from bone, offering a glimpse of what regeneration might have once been across all species. Number 11. The sea cucumber. The little sea cucumber. These are soft-bodied relatives of sea stars and sea urchins. They're among the most fascinating regenerators in the ocean. When threatened, a sea cucumber can eject its intestines, its respiratory system, and parts of its reproductive organs to distract predators. This is a process known as evisceration. Well, within a few weeks, it regrows everything it lost. After the evisceration, the wounds close quickly to prevent infection, and regeneration begins almost immediately. A new digestive system can be fully functional again in just about 40 to 50 days, depending on the species, and this level of regeneration is unheard of in animals with such complex organ systems. Their skin and body wall also have remarkable healing properties. If the animal is cut in half, each piece can regenerate into a complete individual as long as a portion of the central body remains. That ability ensures survival even after severe injury, and it allows populations to recover from environmental disturbances or predator attacks. Because sea cucumbers are echinoderms like sea stars and sea urchins, their biology provides key insights into how regeneration evolved in early animals. The capacity to rebuild internal organs does suggest that the foundation for regeneration may be ancient, but it's shared by many early ancestors of today's animals. Sea cucumbers help recycle nutrients on the ocean floor by consuming detritus and excreting cleaner sediment, and their ability to regenerate keeps them in the ecosystems where their injury and predation are common. To this day, they stand as one of nature's most astonishing examples of self-repair. Losing your entire digestive system and then growing it back from scratch may sound impossible, but for these quiet creatures crawling across the sea floor, it's simply part of staying alive. Number 10. The octopus. The octopus, one of the most intelligent animals in the ocean, also happens to be a master of regeneration. When attacked by predators like moray eels or sharks, an octopus can lose an arm and grow it back completely, restoring both its strength and sensory ability. Each arm is a complex structure filled with muscles, nerves, and hundreds of suction cups, all of which return to full function once the regeneration is complete. The process starts immediately after an arm is lost. The wound closes within hours to prevent infection and fluid loss, and beneath the surface, specialized cells begin forming a regenerative bud that gradually extends outward. Over the course of several months, new tissue, muscle fibers, nerve cells, and suction cups developed in coordination. Eventually, the arm becomes indistinguishable from the original, complete with the ability to taste and manipulate objects through its suckers. What makes this remarkable is the complexity of what's being rebuilt. Each octopus arm contains its own network of neurons, around 40 million an arm, that allows it to act semi-independently from the central brain. Unlike lizards, which regrow simpler structures like tails, octopuses rebuild full muscle control and tactile precision. They rely on this ability frequently, as arm loss in the wild is pretty common. It's a defense mechanism and a form of self-preservation. In extreme cases, they've been seen deliberately detaching limbs that might otherwise become infected. Scientists have discovered that regeneration in octopuses is controlled by genes that guide tissue repair in other animals, but remain active throughout the octopus's life. The process doesn't appear to involve stem cells in the traditional sense. Instead, existing cells near the injury change their identity and begin dividing to form new tissue. With the ability to recover from injury and continue functioning normally, the species thrives in environments full of danger. Regeneration in their case isn't a rare event, it's part of everyday survival. Number 9. The sea urchin. Sea urchins. They're the spiny relatives of starfish and sea cucumbers. They are capable of regenerating almost every part of their body, including spines, tube feet, and even parts of their mouth and skeleton. When a sea urchin loses its spines to a predator or rough currents, new ones begin to form within days. This process involves the activation of specialized cells called sclerocytes, which secrete calcium carbonate to rebuild the hard skeletal material. Over several weeks, the new spines emerge and harden, which restores the animal's primary defense system. They can also regenerate their tube feet. These are small, flexible appendages that help them move, cling to surfaces, and sense their environment. These tube feet contain nerves, muscles, and sensory cells, yet they grow back completely functional. In some cases, if the urchin's mouth parts, known as Aristotle's lantern, are damaged, they too can regenerate, allowing the animal to resume feeding. The ability to regrow body parts isn't just a repair mechanism, it is essential for survival. Sea urchins live in constantly changing environments where waves and predators can easily cause injury. Their regenerative powers ensure that even severe damage doesn't end their life. On a molecular level, the sea urchin regeneration uses many of the same signaling pathways found in vertebrates. What's unusual is that these pathways remain active throughout the animal's life, allowing the tissue to regrow at any stage. Researchers believe this may explain why sea urchins show very little sign of aging. Some species can live for well over a century while maintaining this ability. And because humans share many genes with sea urchins, scientists study them to understand how regeneration might be reactivated in mammals. In the harsh, unpredictable world on the ocean floor, being able to rebuild one's own skeleton is an invaluable trait. For sea urchins, regeneration isn't just recovery, it's a lifelong guarantee that damage, no matter how severe, is rarely permanent. Number 8. Flat-tailed geckos. The flat-tailed gecko is one of nature's quiet experts in regeneration, capable of detaching and regrowing its tail multiple times throughout its life. This lizard, found in arid and tropical regions of Africa, Asia, and Australia, uses this detachable tail as a survival mechanism. When threatened, it deliberately sheds the tail to distract predators while it escapes. Over time, then the gecko regenerates a new one that looks and functions much like the original. A fracture plane that was built into the vertebrae allows the gecko to drop its tail instantly when grabbed. Afterward, the wound seals within minutes to prevent bleeding or infection, and within a few days, new tissue starts to form over the site. Unlike mammals, which typically heal with scar tissue, geckos produce a smooth growth zone called a blastema, a mass of undifferentiated cells capable of turning into bone, muscle, and skin. It also contains a new spinal cord segment with regenerative nerve fibers, giving the tail full movement and sensitivity. In some species, color patterns and scales even return, though the new tail is often slightly shorter or smoother than the original. The ability to regrow a tail is shared by many lizards, but geckos are among the most efficient. They can complete regeneration within just a few weeks depending on their age and environment, and the process consumes a great deal of energy, so they may reduce feeding or movement while regeneration is underway. Beyond their survival, tail regeneration provides other advantages too. The tail serves as a fat storage reserve, helping geckos survive in dry conditions. Regrowing it ensures they maintain this energy supply and balance. For an animal that can literally regrow what it loses, the gecko is an awesome example of natural design at work. Number 7. Crayfish. Crayfish, the freshwater relative of lobsters, are remarkable regenerators. They're capable of regrowing claws, walking legs, antennae, and even parts of their eyes. This ability is essential to their survival in rivers and streams where predators and territorial fights often result in lost limbs. Cells at the wound site rapidly divide to form small regenerative buds, and as the crayfish continue to grow and periodically shed its exoskeleton, a process known as molting, the new limb gradually develops beneath the old shell. After a few molts, the new claw or leg emerges, slightly smaller than before but fully functional, and it continues to grow to normal size over subsequent molts. The new limb develops the same structure and segmentation as the original, complete with nerves, muscles, and jointed exoskeleton plates. And researchers have observed that even sensory structures, such as taste hairs or touch-sensitive bristles, will regrow, restoring the animal's ability to interact with its environment. Hormones that regulate this molding, particularly a type of steroid, also help control regeneration. The timing of this process ensures that new limbs are ready to expand and harden as soon as the animal sheds its own shell. Scientists studying crustacean regeneration use crayfish as model organisms because they combine rapid growth, predictable molting, and clear regenerative stages. The mechanisms behind their regrowth share similar properties with other invertebrates, including activation of stem-like cells that can form multiple tissue types. For a creature that spends much of its life hiding under the rocks or burrowing in muddy riverbeds, the crayfish's ability to rebuild itself after injury is a key to its success. It can fight, lose, and recover, an ancient evolutionary strategy that has allowed these animals to thrive for over 200 million years. Number 6. The earthworm. The earthworm might seem simple, but it does possess one of the most impressive regenerative abilities among land animals. Many species can regrow lost body segments, and some can even replace large portions of their body if the vital internal organs remain intact. This power to regenerate has made the earthworm an important subject in research for over a century. When an earthworm is cut in half, whether it survives and regenerates depends on the species and where the cut happened. The front section, containing the head and key organs, especially the clitellum, which aids in reproduction, can often regrow several missing segments and restore full function. However, the rear section without the head cannot regenerate a new front. Contrary to popular belief, cutting a worm in half doesn't produce two worms. Only one survives and regenerates. The process begins immediately after the injury. The worm will secrete a mucus to seal the wound and prevent infection. And over time, new muscle, nerve, and skin cells develop from this mass, replacing the missing segments. The cells there activate specific genes that control segment patterning, ensuring that the new body parts form in the right sequence. The worm maintains a primitive nervous system that can regrow connections between nerve clusters, which restores movement and coordination to these new segments. And while earthworm regeneration is not as dramatic as in sea stars or axolotls, it's remarkable for a terrestrial animal. Their ability to rebuild parts of their bodies not only benefits them, but also help maintain the soil ecosystem, as healthy worm populations continually aerate and fertilize the ground. In short, the earthworm may not be immortal, but its regenerative ability plays a quiet yet crucial role in keeping the world's soils alive and productive. Number 5. Flatfish. Flatfish, like flounder, sole, and halibut, are known not just for their unusual body shape, but also their ability to regenerate fins, scales, and portion of skin and muscle tissue. While they can't regenerate entire organs or heads like some invertebrates, their fin regeneration is among the most efficient in the ocean. When a fin is damaged or partially removed, flatfish immediately begin forming a thin layer of new tissue at the injury site. Within a few days, cells that form the surrounding tissue migrate to the wound, creating a blastema, a cluster of undifferentiated cells. This new fin is often indistinguishable from the original, complete with pigment and flexible bone structures. Genes responsible for early development are reactivated at these sites, and they coordinate the growth and organization of new tissue. Flatfish regeneration isn't limited to fins either. Their skin, which is often camouflaged to blend into the sea floor, can repair itself. When injured, the skin heals with restored color patterns and texture, ensuring the fish remains well camouflaged. The eyes and body structure, however, don't regenerate if damaged, confirming that their abilities, while advanced, have clear limits. The flatfish regeneration has drawn interest in aquaculture research, as injuries are common in farmed fish populations. Understanding how they heal could lead to improved conditions and recovery rates in commercial fisheries. And although their regenerative capacity doesn't reach the levels of sea stars or salamanders, flatfish show that even highly specialized animals can retain parts of nature's self-repair blueprint, allowing them to recover, adapt, and continue thriving. Number 4. Lobster. These crustaceans, which inhabit rocky and sandy seafloors across the Atlantic and other oceans, have an extraordinary ability to regenerate lost limbs, including claws, legs, antennae, and even portions of their eyes and mouth parts. For lobsters, this ability is not a rare event, but a fundamental part of their life history. Many individuals will lose and regrow several limbs over the course of their life. If a predator grabs hold of a lobster's claw or leg, the lobster can detach that limb at a specific fracture point near the body. This break minimizes any blood loss, as the lobster contracts a special muscle to seal off the wound within seconds. After the limb is lost, the regeneration process begins almost immediately. Under the exoskeleton at the site of the loss, a layer of undifferentiated cells starts to form. This small cluster of cells will eventually give rise to the new limb, but the process takes time and depends heavily on the lobster's molting cycle. The growth of the new appendage is incremental. After the first molting following an injury, the new limb may emerge as a small, underdeveloped version of the original, tiny, weak, but functional. With each successive molt, the regenerated limb grows in size, gradually becoming indistinguishable. The claw, in particular, is one of the most complex structures a lobster can regenerate. Each lobster has two distinct claws, a crusher claw, which is broad and powerful for breaking shells, and a pincer claw, which is slender and sharp for cutting and tearing. Remarkably, if a lobster loses one of these, the regenerated claw often takes the same function as the original, maintaining the animal's natural asymmetry and balance. Another fascinating aspect is the involvement of their decentralized nervous system. Each segment of a lobster's body contains nerve cells which operate semi-independently from the brain. They're called ganglia, and this arrangement allows local control over muscle movements and reflexes. During regeneration, these ganglia send signals to developing limbs to help guide its structure and ensure proper functional wiring as the new nerves grow. And this regeneration isn't limited to external limbs. Lobsters can also repair internal tissues and parts of their digestive tract after injury. In some cases, lobsters with eye or antenna damage can partially restore their vision and sensory function over time, suggesting that their capabilities extend beyond what is visible. Fishermen have long noticed that lobsters can recover from minor injuries sustained in traps or during handling, and regulations in many fisheries now require lobsters with damaged or missing claws to be returned. This ensures their population sustainability, and it acknowledges the animal's natural capacity for recovery. Fossil evidence shows that modern lobsters' ancestors already possessed these similar body structures and molting mechanisms more than 100 million years ago. And in an environment filled with predators, storms, and constant challenges, being able to regrow a lost part is a profound advantage. It allows these creatures to endure damage that would kill or permanently disable most other things. Number 3. The hydra. The hydra. It's not just a fantasy monster, it's a tiny freshwater organism that looks like a delicate strand of jelly with tentacles. Scientists have been interested in it for centuries because it can regenerate its entire body from just a fragment, and in some cases from a single cell. Unlike most animals, it doesn't seem to age or deteriorate over time, and given proper conditions, it can potentially live forever. Now, they're part of a phylum which also includes jellyfish and corals. They live in ponds and streams and attach themselves to plants or rocks and feed on small aquatic organisms. Despite their simplicity, they don't have a brain, a heart, or true organs. Its biology is one of the most sophisticated examples of regeneration ever observed. When a hydra is cut into pieces, each piece can reorganize and grow into a completely new hydra within just a few days. This ability is due to the hydra's abundance of stem cells. Nearly every cell in its body retains the ability to divide indefinitely and transform into any other type of cell as needed. What's really cool is that hydras can regenerate from externally small portions of tissue, sometimes as little as 1% of their original body. This is possible because this structure is highly modular. Every part contains the necessary genetic and cellular information to reconstruct the whole. The same genes exist in humans but are largely inactive in adult tissues. In hydras, these genes are always ready to respond, and they ensure that regeneration happens quickly and correctly. Hydras reproduce both sexually and asexually, but regeneration is closely tied to their asexual reproduction method called budding. In this process, a small protrusion forms along the body column, grows into a miniature version of the parent, and eventually detaches to live independently. In most animals, cells accumulate damage over time and leads to senescence, this gradual decline in function associated with aging. Hydra cells, however, show no such decline. Their stem cells continue dividing at a constant rate, and their DNA repair systems remain active. This has led some scientists to describe them as biologically immortal, though they still can die from disease or environmental stress. Researchers at institutions like the Max Planck Institute and Harvard have mapped thousands of genes active during this regeneration, and many of them are shared with humans and suggest that the basic genetic toolkit for regeneration is ancient and conserved across species. The difference is that in hydras, the regenerative mechanisms are permanently switched on, while in humans and other complex animals they're mostly dormant. Hydras have been the focus of regeneration studies since the 1700s, when naturalists first observed their ability to regrow after being cut. Early experiments by Abraham Tremblay in 1744 show that a hydra could be sliced into multiple pieces, and each of which regenerated into a complete organism. Even centuries later, scientists are still uncovering new layers of this seemingly simple creature. Modern genetic sequencing has revealed that hydras regulate their regenerative process through a balance of growth-promoting and growth-inhibiting signals. If one pathway becomes overactive, the organism can produce malformed structures or fail to regenerate. Yet under normal conditions, the balance is perfectly maintained. It's proof of how finely tuned the hydra's biological systems are. In a sense, they're living fossils, maintaining an ancient genetic design that continues to function flawlessly. Number 2. The sea anemone. This is an animal that can rebuild nearly any part of its body, from torn tentacles to its entire central column, sometimes even from fragments that seem way too small to sustain life. They are simple in design, yet astonishingly robust in their ability to regenerate. When one is injured, whether by predators, currents, or humans, the wound begins to heal almost immediately. This process starts with rapid cell migration to the injury site, forming a temporary seal. Beneath this layer, the specialized cells begin dividing to reconstruct the lost tissue. Within hours, the body can reestablish its internal water pressure, which supports its structure and tentacles, and over time, a new section of the body wall forms, complete with muscles and nerves that integrate seamlessly. Now, sea anemones don't have a rigid skeleton or centralized brain, but they possess a nerve net, a network of neurons that spread throughout the body. And this structure makes regeneration far more flexible. The same goes for the digestive system, which can regrow even after severe damage. Some species of sea anemone can regenerate from tiny fragments, some just a few millimeters wide. Others can reform their tentacles after losing them to fish or crabs. But what's really fascinating about the sea anemone's regeneration is how it parallels that of other simple organisms like the hydra. Both share a similar architecture for regeneration, including the highly active stem cells. In fact, sea anemones possess many of the same genes found in humans, including those controlling body symmetry, cell differentiation, and tissue patterning. In humans, though, the genes are mostly active during embryonic development, and then they shut down. In sea anemones, they remain active throughout life. Unlike most animals, sea anemones show no signs of senescence, that's the process of aging. Their cells continually divide and renew, which allows them to maintain their bodies indefinitely. Some individuals may live for decades, possibly even centuries, without any measurable decline in vitality. Because of this, scientists consider them one of the few examples of animals that approach biological immortality. To watch a sea anemone recover from being torn in half is to witness life's underlying persistence. This is a process so graceful and efficient, it blurs the line between healing and rebirth. Number 1. Sea sponges. Now, sea sponges may look like just static lumps of coral or rock, but in reality, they're among the most extraordinary regenerators on the planet, perhaps the ultimate masters of rebuilding life from nothing. These ancient animals, which have existed for over 600 million years, have a body plan so flexible and primitive they can reassemble themselves entirely after being torn apart, shredded, or even passed through a fine mesh filter. What's left behind, just loose, scattered cells, can reorganize, reconnect, and grow back into a fully functional sponge. Their bodies are composed of a loose collection of specialized cells suspended within a gelatinous framework. Now, these cells are versatile. When damaged, they can migrate, change roles, and fuse with others to rebuild whatever part of the sponge is missing. This kind of flexibility means that regeneration in sponges isn't confined to just repairing wounds. It's an ongoing process of its own reconstruction. This ensures the sponge's survival, but it also serves as a natural form of reproduction. A single sponge, when torn apart, can give rise to dozens of new ones. In controlled lab experiments, researchers have shown just how extreme this ability is. Scientists have taken a living sponge, forced it through a sieve that completely separates its cells into a cloudy suspension, and then placed that suspension back into seawater. Within hours, the cells began moving towards one another, forming small clusters. Over the next few days, these clusters merged and reorganized into miniature sponges, complete with their original body shape and filtering function. It's like a scrambled jigsaw puzzle we're somehow able to solve itself. Once reconnected, they begin differentiating into their various types: the collar cells that filter water, structural cells that form the skeleton, and amoeboid cells that transport nutrients. These reformed sponges quickly resume pumping water through their porous bodies, filtering the microscopic food particles from the seawater as if nothing ever happened. In some cases, sponges have been estimated to live for thousands of years, with specimens like the glass sponge believed to be over 11,000 years old. They are, in a sense, living time capsules, organisms that have been quietly thriving since long before fish, trees, or even insects appeared on the Earth. Scientists studying sponge regeneration have discovered that it involves a suite of genetic pathways similar to those found in more complex animals, and this does suggest that the molecular foundations for regeneration evolved very early in animal history. Sponges may represent one of the original blueprints for how multicellular organisms maintain and repair themselves.